Well, good afternoon, guys. On this July 10th, I'm back in Big Cottonwood Canyon. I know I had a bunch of videos from southern Utah, but that's probably not going to be any more for the rest of the year. But yeah, it's late in the season now. You can see more interesting things. So let's just see what cool plants I can identify on the trail today. Now, despite the fact that we're almost up to 7,500 feet in elevation, because of the intensity of the sun that beats down on this south-facing slope, we actually got some Gambel Oak growing here, some Quercus gambelii. I talked about way too much this year, but I need to talk about it again. It's an important microclimatic thing happening here. We're not even that small. They're actually pretty normal size for Gambel Oak, so this is clearly a very warm microsite. And we also got some Berberis repens growing on the ground. That was definitely a much more cool tolerant species, I believe, but you do typically see it at lower elevations. This is a great habitat for it, and even some of this Amelanchier or utahensis, I believe. Yeah, so a little bit of an outlier of mountain brush, not quite as extreme as Mount Air is, but still very notable. As we get higher up in elevation, we're going to see some increasing amounts of plants that are much more adapted to higher elevations, of course, as the growing season gets increasingly truncated with elevation. This is pretty basic stuff, I'm sure you guys all know, but it's sometimes worth repeating. Also a lot of Douglas fir right here. The Pseudotsuga menziesii, plant that these days seems to grow mostly in the lower elevations of the Wasatch, the lower montane. Though it can definitely be found at upper elevations. It's just that they weren't really replanted there. A lot of trees were cleared from the Wasatch Mountains and were replanted subsequently, so most people don't even realize that a lot of this forest isn't even old growth anymore. But it is a fairly natural state, I'd say. I think it's recovered really nicely, just not quite the way it would have on its own, I guess. But that's a good thing, no doubt. Okay, now here is a really cool plant I almost never get to talk about because I never see it. This is Iliamna rivularis. It's commonly referred to as a hollyhock, but I believe there's another genus of plants also referred to that, more commonly in fact. I think it comes from the Old World primarily. Frevo, it's a very interesting genus, and I think it is a member of the family Malvaceae, which should be fairly clear if you know how to tell them apart, but the real signature of that family is the fact that the stamens are fused in a tube around the style, not actually fused to it, so if you cut the sort of flower in half, the styles will fall away, or style will fall away from the stamen tube. But you can see the little bushy anthers sticking out right there. I can steady it. It's a little hard to tell, but it's very cool to me. And a bit of a meadow with some various species clearly dominating. Most dominant shrub is this one. I believe this is Symphoricarpos oreophilus. It could also be rotundifolia. It's hard to know or how to tell them apart, and it's actually controversial if they're even separate species. Not every flora recognizes them as such, but I will for this purpose. I believe oreophilus has glabrous leaves, generally speaking. Well, these ones seem to be glabrous, but they seem a little bit, they could have some hairs on them. A tiny bit actually. I don't know. Hard to tell, but definitely a snowberry at the least. And there's also all these wildflowers here that are clearly a member of Asteraceae. I'm pretty sure are Arnica longiflora. You can tell them apart from a very similar looking plant, Iliamna uniflora, by the fact that these ones have opposite leaves, which is standard for the genus Arnica, while Iliamna uniflora has alternate leaves. Really cool plant, I think. And I think all plants are cool, but I guess there's that maybe pretty typical actually, but I love the fact that they're dominant here and doing so well. Seeing a lot of these paintbrushes. This is Castilleja rhexifolia. The other most common paintbrush you see at this elevation is Castilleja mediata. That one though is orange and has less fat sepals, or bracts I should say. It's hard to tell if they're sepals or bracts because what's interesting about Castilleja is that the petals, which are those green things sticking out right there, are fused in the tube and look green, while the sepals are what's colorful and petaloid, or petaliform. I don't know, I can't remember my botanical nomenclature and terminology right now. Let's carry on anyways. Getting higher up, the wildflowers are all doing pretty good so far, which I like to see because it's been quite dry as of late. It's been a dry summer so far, and though we are strong still, it's only just getting started, so hopefully we get some more rain so that this show can continue. I like to see that we've got some tall stuff here. I guess that Heracleum maximum is not actually that tall, but they're growing strong and happy. Got some Agastache rhexifolia as well. Ooh, some bugs are biting me. There's so many bugs here. That's a good sign as well, because bugs are important. Not quite the base of the ecosystem, but actually for a lot of species they kind of are. It's got to be almost certainly a young shoot of, what's it called? I can't remember for a second. Sambucus racemosa, a red elderberry. Its opposite leaves. Damn, look how tall of an Urtica dioica is as well. I'm not going to touch it this time, so get that idea out of your head, but I appreciate the plant for what it is all the same. What a beautiful day. Honestly, this is a really tough day, but it's a very beautiful one as well, so I'm so happy to be here still. And back to filming videos again. Okay, now here's something that's really quite striking to me. This tree, which is definitely an aspen, a Populus tremulates, must have snapped off and fallen somewhere, but where did it go? It's not on the tree. The fact that wood bent that way and it sheared on that side would indicate it fell there. Seems like there might be a bit of a clearing. And there definitely is. You can tell that this fell fairly recently here. I want to set past these plants without hurting them. This plant, or this tree, fell fairly recently because it crushed living vegetation from this season. So it had to be this year at least. The tree does not like it was in good health. It was clearly already dead. So it was standing dead wood. You see it snapped again here. Oh, actually no, it was alive. Take it back, but it definitely had some serious damage on the inside. That's even more evidence that it has fallen quite recently because the leaves are still very much intact. Wow, this would be incredible to see. Just absolutely fantastic. I want to see a tree fall over sometime. Sorry if you heard my burp there. It's a real big aspen too. A bit of a shame that it died. I mean, just look how bad that rot is. Furthermore, see a lot of damage from insects, not from here. If I step over again. Oh, that's gonna collapse. Shoot. Sorry, that's really bright and washed out, but I gotta get through here somehow. Right there. Oh wow, that got really... I tried the ISO a lot accidentally. It's incredible. Clearly insects were eating it out, and it's likely had a lot of fungi damage. Wow, the flies are really thick. Wow, I just saw something I really wish I could show you guys. I saw a pack of 4 badgers just chillaxing on the side of a trail, socializing a bit. I think I startled them a bit because they all looked at me and one very quickly ran off. But the other 3 took about half a minute before they decided to trot down the trail. I must have startled them a little bit. I believe they're fairly shy animals. I don't think I've seen badgers in about, well, almost like 5 years at this point. That was a really nice find. It was really awesome. I'll put the one picture I saw one up for you. Anyways, now we're in a bit of an aspen forest, a Populus tremulates forest, which I said before are great for wildflowers. Which you can see a few here. This is definitely Senecio, not yet in bloom. Serrate leaves and tall stature give it away. When it starts to bloom, have nice yellow Senecio flowers. This is likely a Eucephalus engelmannii, also not yet in bloom. It has white flowers, just like a typical aster. And of course, to talk more about Asteraceae, this is Rudbeckia occidentalis, it's known as the western coneflower. Very easy to tell apart from other flowers when you see its capitulum like this, because it doesn't have any, petal florets, ray florets, that's what I'm trying to say. It's just all disc florets, although they're not really in a disc shape, they're in a cone, as the name implies. Very common plant in the Wasatch. I like when they're, after they've gone to seed, you can just like knock all the little achenes off of them, that's always fun. Okay, I guess technically they're cypsellas. That's a very well actually kind of moment. to talk about that. It's a little dark. Oh, and my favorite wildflower. This is Aquilegia carolea. Certainly my favorite in the Wasatch Mountains. Like a lot of other Aquilegia caroleas, this one is all white. I think in other states they tend to be purple and white, but I've never seen one with purple in the Wasatch before. See, it's beautiful Aquilegia nectar spurs from the petals. What's interesting is that the sepals are pushed forward in between the petals to look like the petals, but I'm pretty sure these are definitely the petals. Okay, take that back. After a little bit of closer look, these are in fact the petals, and they do have the nectar spurs as well. I don't know why I thought that for a second. But yeah, I just love the family Ranunculaceae, and I love Aquilegias because they're so cool. So I'm Bryce Canyon. I didn't get to talk about this one, but I saw a lot of this Wendell Aquilegia scopulorum. That was pretty interesting. Okay, let's carry on. I'm not sure if this is an old feature that I'd never noticed or if it's a new feature. But here's this pond I've never seen before on this trail. It's a little out of the way, but it certainly is pretty obvious when I looked over. So maybe beavers have made it, or perhaps I just never noticed it before. It is absolutely covered in this pond scum, but that's not so bad. Some animals need it. And it's just part of the diversity of habitats and biodiversity that we have in places like this. Certainly seems a little bit more clear in the center of the pond, however. Haven't seen any direct evidence of beavers in this site, but you can't just rule it out on that basis. That little plant is Erythranthe guttata. Once again, Erythranthe guttata, part of Frimaceae. Formerly in the genus Mimulus, though that genus actually has not very many species anymore. They've been moved around to like Diplacus and Erythranthe, and maybe a few others. But yeah, probably the most common former Mimulus you see around here. Okay, now for real, thanks for watching and see you next time.